Hi, my name is Rob Nicely and I'm with Carmel Building and Design. And today we're here to talk about the insulation that we're going to do on this project. My company has done a lot of really energy efficient houses over the last couple of years. So when we were doing the passive houses, we used spray foam as our main way to do the insulation. And when you're trying to make a thermos, spray foam works really well. Unfortunately, there are some downsides to it. It does have a toxic component. The accelerant that's used to make the foam expands is toxic. And in fact, you have to keep everyone out of the house on the day that you're installing the spray foam. And it continues to off-gas. Also, because in the Living Building Challenge, we're not allowed to use any toxic materials on site. In fact, they have something called the red list, which is a list of things that you just can't have any of. We had to really diminish the amount of toxics that we were going to use in this project. So we're going to come up with a way of getting the really high performance but using much more benign and sustainable materials. So in the case of the walls and ceiling, the part that you can see here in the wall cavity here, we're actually going to be using cellulose, and we'll be using rigid, high density blown-in cellulose. So here we would pack the cellulose into the walls so it's up to the density that's required to get the R value, and then up in the lid we'll just be using regular blown-in cellulose. So up here between the ceiling joists, we'll just be using blown-in cellulose. Another thing that we're going to do on this house is we're going to use a product called rock wool, which is a post-industrial waste product, which would normally be waste, but we can use to put insulation on the outside. And putting insulation on the outside of the walls is a less common thing, something that is going to become more common. It's starting to be written into the building code. And the advantage there is that you can get an uninterrupted layer of insulation running around the whole outside of the house, whereas here you have the breaks where the framing members are. And so it's another place we can add insulation and improve the thermal performance. Then this is the rock wool that I was talking about, and you can see that there's wooden strips on it, but those are applied over the surface. So the rock wool is actually a continuous insulation layer. These strips are actually so that we can attach the lath that will later have the stucco applied to it. But the rock wool itself is a continuous layer, and you can see back here that it's 1.5 inches thick. This is that post production material. It actually comes from steel smelting. It's a waste product that comes from steel smelting, and they make it up into these boards. Another feature that it has is it's something called hydrophobic, which means that it doesn't like water. It repels water. So whereas some kinds of materials, wood, other kinds of insulation materials, water would soak in, water will never soak into this. If water touches it, it moves to the outside immediately.